All right, and here for the first time, a very special guest, first-time guest on the Hokie Hangover podcast, Virginia Tech head football coach Brent Pry. Coach, really busy time of year. It's never been busier for college football for the coaches across the sport. Really appreciate you taking some time to join us today, especially in the middle of spring practice. How are you?
Good. Yeah, we had practice number 11 today, about 100 snaps of scrimmage work down in the stadium. And we've got recruits still kind of in and out of my office right now. So all is well.
Good. So you're in the middle of obviously early parts of preparation for the 2024 season. From where this program started, day one, when you walked in the door for the first time, to where you are right now in the middle of spring practice, getting ready for year 3 as the coach of the program, where do you believe the program has most grown since your arrival?
Yeah, I think culturally, just, the mindset these guys have right now is, the foundation's laid there. And that's maybe the toughest thing that we have to do as coaches is establish that with our staff, with our players, and with our team. So we've come a long way there. That's shaped through the adversity, the competitions, the wins, the losses. I mean, all of it. So I'm pretty proud and pleased where we are with that. We still have a lot of work to do in a lot of areas, but our culture is in a good place.
Coach, this program has lofty goals, and you stated them on day one. We've made a lot of progress to this point, but here in the spring of going into year 3 and going forward, what is this team and this program's number one area for growth in your eyes?
Yeah, we still have to keep building this roster out. We have to have quality, experienced, productive players across the board. We need more of that. Guys that we know we can win this league with. We've got several. We don't have enough of them yet. We've got to be better in the trenches. I think when you look at the 23 season, I think Louisville, NC State, Florida State, they won more battles up front. And we've made great strides on both of those areas. All 5 guys returning on the O-line. The depth has improved. We're closing that gap, but to me, that's that has to happen for us to go where we want to go.
Coach, you guys are facing a lot higher expectations. I think it's fair to say from national media going into year 3. You guys are returning some of the most production in the nation. I think ESPN's Bill Connolly actually said you guys have the most returning production of any team in FBS heading into 2024. How do you address that level of expectation with your team, especially so early on in this process? And do you change the way you do anything as you kind of handle those?
No, we're actually trained up on that because all it is noise. You can hear it if you want to, but it can't mean anything. When we were 1-3, there was plenty of noise from a lot of the same sources, and we couldn't let it mean anything then. And when it's positive, it doesn't mean anything either. It doesn't control or impact what we do. How we need to work, where we need to invest, where we need to improve. So we're already trained on ignoring the noise, and I love these guys getting pats on the back, but they have to understand what it means.
Coach, you mentioned the areas where the team and the program still need to grow. You mentioned in the trenches. I had a question for you in regards to NIL. Right, every college coach is discussing NIL, the impacts of it on recruiting, on retention of your own roster. Just how difficult is it in this day and age to find the right players, obviously have the talent level, but you've spoken a lot about having the right culture, guys that fit Virginia Tech. So how do you balance that with, okay, we have this emergence of NIL as well that, players can now profit off their name, image, and likeness, and, that's becoming part of the recruiting pitch, and it's still pretty new. So how do you balance all of that on the recruiting trail and also with your own roster in terms of retention year over year, day after day?
we have a healthy balance right now. We want to be competitive, and we are competitive in that area, in that space with name, image, and likeness. But from the onset, with our team, with high school recruits, with transfer recruits, the message is I don't want anybody to choose Virginia Tech because of money, whether it's to stay here or come here. You come here for the right reasons because you see this as a place where you can be happy and successful, and not because of a monetary amount. Now we can't just say, hey, there's nothing for you. I mean, we have to be competitive where these guys feel like they can do that also. So right now, I mean, it's always a balancing act, and it does require a lot of just man hours and a lot of conversations and a lot of commitment, to be able to navigate it and support it. As I mentioned, we have to be good in that space. We don't, we're not the type of place right now. We're not going to outbid somebody for somebody. I don't want somebody to come here because of that. But I also want to, be respectful and understand, guys' value, and we've been able to do that.
Coach, I want to kind of transition more to the team going into next year. Kyron Drones' improvement last year was pretty obvious. He got what seemed to be much more comfortable with the offense and confident in himself as the year went by. As you move into him being year 2 as a starter, where do you think in his game he can make the most growth and have the biggest impact from what he was doing last year to going into this season?
Yeah, there's really two areas, and one is off the field, one's on the field. He's one of the goals for the spring was just to throw more accurately into tight coverage. The drop back passes, even some of the stuff out of the pocket, to be able to throw, contested balls. And, there was a lot of open receivers last year. And, he put the ball where it needed to be, but we'll be challenged more. And for him to be able to make the tight throws and place that ball where the receiver can get it and the DB can't when they have tight coverage. And then off the field, he's such a leader by example. I mean, he's one of our best workers. He's very consistent. He brings it every day. I'd like to see him be more vocal. And, he's got tremendous amount of respect from this staff and this team. And so when he speaks, people are going to listen. And so we're working on that area as well.
I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of quarterbacks that maybe are more reserved in nature. How do you kind of coax the energy and the vocalness out of them? How do you work with them to become more of a vocal leader?
Yeah, I think that's something that they have to get comfortable in that space. It's giving them some tools. It's not always something that just comes naturally to folks, and I don't think you ever want to force it. It's just talking about it and giving them examples. That's true developing leadership, at any position, for your team. Seeing it in their coaches and putting it up front, calling their name, breaking down the huddle, getting in front of the team, talking about what's important to them, talking about the fundamentals. Those guys that you dial up and put them out there, they get better at it. Most cases, they get better at it, the more opportunity they have to do it.
Coach, going to give you a second to brag on your team overall here. Just from what you've seen so far this spring, what's impressed you the most about this group, especially compared to where they were 1 year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think, we're obviously in a better place just knowing more about more guys, what you're going to get from them. And, we're very efficient at practice. Everybody kind of understands the operation of it and the standards and expectations that go along with our practices. And so we get more done. We're not coaching, coaching some of the the pieces of a practice schedule that involve where to go, how to do it, how to finish, all these things. We're coaching the technique. We're spending the time a little bit more effectively. So I think it's a mature group. We've got a bunch of veterans that decided to come back, and that's apparent when you come out and see us practice right now.
Obviously, some key transfer additions coming into the program. Sam Brumfield, middle of the defense. Aeneas Peebles in the middle of the defensive line. Calvin Gilliam, middle of the defensive line. An area where, it seemed to us like over the course of the year, the defense really started to improve and find their footing, limiting the explosive plays. I know you've talked about that a lot. But what's impressed you most about these transfer players who have come in and, given you reps here in spring practice?
Yeah, they've blended in very well with our team. They, particularly, the four guys on defense, just our group accepted them. They were very humble and gracious to be here and work their tails off. So, they fit in very well. And each of them, has been productive over the course of the spring. We lose 3 D tackles to graduation, and we bring in 3 guys that have experience and some age to them and have kind of been through it. And then obviously Sam, a really nice career at Middle Tennessee and has come in and kind of kept his mouth shut and just worked and earned respect and battled and learned the defense. And he's finally kind of coming out of his shell and really, getting to a much better place. So, the most important thing, to me, it's 2 items, right? That they're talented enough to help your team and that they're going to be great teammates. And all 5 of these guys check those 2 boxes.
Coach, a lot of our listeners, have been asking us about 2 key, I guess, additions to your staff that's happened in recent weeks. Number 1 being the addition of Gunter Brewer, and number 2 being the promotion of Fontel Mines. Can you talk a little bit about Brewer and what his roles and expectations are going to look like, why you thought he was a good fit? And in terms of Coach Mines, from a practical level, what does this mean in terms of, his role in the hierarchy of your staff and what he did to kind of earn this?
Yeah, I'll start with Fontel. Obviously, he's earned everything that he's gotten in our program. He's recruited at a high level. He's developed his players at a high level. He took a room that was arguably, the least productive on our football team and turned it into arguably the most productive. He's done a nice job at a high level in recruiting and helped us garner some pretty good signees from within the state and whether it's high school level or transfer level. So, really pleased with the production there. He's a somewhat young coach, but he's bright and he's very mindful of things. He gets it. So I'm happy to give him more responsibility that comes with that title. He'll be involved in more, high level conversations and meetings and because I value his input. And then with Coach Brewer, highly respected, highly regarded coach for a lot of years. I've never actually worked with him, but a couple of my staff members have, and his reputation precedes him. He's got outstanding character. He's got football background with his dad, and then obviously a ton of experience on the offensive side of the ball. So, he's recruited at a high level. Our high school relations coordinators, James Johnson and Gunter, both these guys have recruited 4- and 5-star athletes. And that was important to me in those positions. These guys, that's their primary task, to recruit the players, to recruit the families, and to entertain them and, tell them all about Virginia Tech and what we're about when they're on our campus. So another good addition for us, in the recruiting department.
To kind of follow up on that, the director of high school relations position is in that kind of weird position on staff because it's not an on-field assistant. So can you just kind of enlighten us on some of the differences and how they can recruit players and in ways that they can't recruit that maybe an on-field assistant can?
Yeah, they can recruit just like our 10 assistants, other than they can't leave campus to do it.
Okay.
So they can attend high school coaches clinics. They can do those type of things, but they can call these recruits, they can call these parents, and then they're certainly going to spend a lot of time with them. For instance, we're at practice today. We have a 100-play scrimmage. Our coaches are tied up. So JJ and Coach Brew are out there with the families along with the rest of our recruiting staff.
Yeah.
Coach, it's been clear since you've arrived that you're comfortable moving guys around, especially on defense, right? You're not afraid to try to fill a gap with a guy who's been playing another position. How do you balance, trying to fill areas of need and the comfort level a guy has with obviously the effectiveness that's needed out of that given position, especially like in season when, very week to week with injuries and things like that, you've got to make adjustments on the fly. What goes into those types of decisions for you and your defensive staff specifically?
Well, first of all, you have to plan ahead. You have to see where maybe you don't have the depth that you would need, and make sure you're training and have a plan for that. And then secondly, it's all about evaluating strengths and weaknesses and putting guys in the best position to be successful. And we've had years where we want to play a nose and a 3, right? A nose, a little bigger, a little stronger, knockback guy, maybe not the athlete the 3 is, who's out there, in the B gap, a little looser away from the ball, and what you ask him to do. And then we've had years where it's been the same guy. Boundary safety, field safety. Boundary corner, field corner. It's about minimizing weaknesses and maximizing assets. And in some cases, it's more glaring than others, and more necessary than others. But I've always believed in cross training guys, whether it's corners and safeties, whether it's outside linebackers, inside linebackers. We've always had those oversized defensive ends that that can go play 3 technique and pass situations. To me, that's just maximizing abilities and maximizing depth. And it also helps guys understand, the game a little bit better. When you've played corner and you've played safety, when you've played to the field and you've played to the boundary, you've played nose and you've played 3, you've played end and you've played tackle. You just, you can understand the big picture a little bit better.
Coach, last one we got for you here. As we head towards the end of spring, summer, right on the horizon there, what's the agenda look like? Do you have any specific priorities, once spring practice comes to an end here?
Yeah, obviously we'll have individual player meetings. The position coaches will do that, and then I'll meet with all 120-some guys. We'll be finishing up exams and a little bit of time in the weight room, but once exams are over, the guys will get a couple of weeks at home before they're back for summer 1, what we call phase 3. And we'll talk about as a team the things we need to accomplish in phase 3. We haven't talked about it yet. We're in phase 2. We've got to win the spring ball campaign, and the guys, they understand the things we needed to get done, and we talk about that weekly. So, that's what the near future looks like.
Coach, once again, we know you're real busy. We appreciate the time today. We'll look forward to catching up with you again soon. Good luck with the rest of spring practice. We appreciate it.
Always good to talk to some fellow Hokies. Appreciate y'all.
Amen to
Appreciate
that.
it.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.